Hey everybody, hey, this is a new video from me. Haven't made a video in like 2-3 days. It's just another segment of my Wrestling Forgotten Gems. Sorry for not bringing you a new video. Just been busy and I'm not really having the time like I usually do to make videos because with me moving and then of course personal stuff outside of YouTube, just haven't really got the time to sort of make videos, and I've been too distracted and bothered with work and everything else to sort of make videos on YouTube. But for anybody who's been wondering why I haven't been making enough, well, some of the people who subscribe to me been wondering why I haven't been making videos. Well, that's the reason. And again, sorry for not making any new videos. It's just been busy, and now I got a lot of stuff outside of YouTube to worry about, and that's really one of the reasons why I don't really upload as many videos as I used to. But today, this is a special treat. I'm here, back, making another video. This is another one of my segments of my Wrestling Forgotten Gems. You know the drill. Talk about some of the most forgotten things in wrestling, whether it be a wrestler, whether it be feuds, whether it be pay-per-views, whether it be special wrestling events like Raws or whatever. It's just something that I really talk about that many people tend to forget, mainly due to the fact that people just didn't care about it. It turned out well, it didn't turn out well, or it just got erased from people's memory. But I'm here bringing it to you and bringing it back into your mind. And today, this is just another edition of it. This time I'm going to be talking about a pay-per-view. It's from WWF's 1998 pay-per-view, which was WWF Breakdown. Now, really, this is one of those pay-per-views that people tend to forget, mainly because the card wasn't really that good. You had so many bad matches on here, but then there was only 3 matches or 4 that sort of outshined, but really didn't help save the pay-per-view, as I believe this pay-per-view really didn't get a good buy rate, and many people really weren't into this pay-per-view at all, mainly due to what happened, mainly due to the main event being so bad and people just not wanting to, just people just throwing a hissy fit, mainly due to the main event. But what saved this show a little bit was the triple threat matchup between The Rock and Mankind against The Rock, Mankind, and Ken Shamrock, which was a very good steel cage matchup. It wasn't great, but it was good. You saw the sleeper hold spot. Mankind made himself into a star in this matchup. Ken Shamrock showed why he should have got pushed in the WWF around that time, as they were sort of semi-pushing Ken Shamrock, but they weren't really pushing him all the way. And The Rock showed why he was destined for great things at this pay-per-view, mainly due to the fact that he cut a real good promo before this, which the crowd really got into him because of that promo. And then mainly he had a good showing in that triple threat matchup, and he became a star overnight. Well, he was already a star, but he became an even more bigger star overnight. And I believe this is where they would tease The Rock as being a face, and then in the end they sort of turned him heel at Survivor Series, because really you can't have 2 faces going in at the brand at the same time. But still, that was one of the best matches on that show, and it showed just how underrated those 3 guys were at the time. Well, mainly Kent Shamrock, as Kent Shamrock really doesn't get as much credit as guys like The Rock or Mankind do, as he was a good worker. It's just the fact that the WWE just didn't push him, or they didn't see anything into him. They just thought he was a mid-carder at best, and they just didn't have any big plans for him. But really, this was the match that should have elevated Ken Shamrock a little bit, as it seemed like they were going to push him into the main event status, but really he didn't. And in the end, The Rock ended up winning, mainly due to the fact that Mankind was climbing out, and I guess The Rock hit the people's elbow or the rock bottom on Ken Shamrock, and thus Rock would be the #1 contender. And then they would go with the screw job angle, with Rock getting screwed of being #1 contender and then having to do this to get into that Survivor Series Deadly Games tournament. But overall, that Rock versus Mankind versus Ken Shamrock match was good, and it led to bigger things between the 3 guys. Although Ken Shamrock was sort of get pushed I believe 2 pay-per-views after that, it was still good to see Kent Shamrock sort of getting pushed and the company sort of still thinking about pushing him and him getting the focus on. You also had matches like D'Lo Brown against Gangrel. Really, that was an okay matchup. There was nothing of note. There was some botch spots, but overall, it was an okay matchup for what you expect between these two. You also had Vader getting jobbed out, and I believe this was the final pay-per-view appearance of Vader, as Vader was just around this time. Vader was just getting jobbed out to basically everyone, and everyone knew he had no chance against Bradshaw, mainly due to the fact that he was losing a lot of matches before the Bradshaw match, and that match really wasn't that good to begin with, as it was slow and it was methodical, and it just showed that Bradshaw was not really that good of a wrestler. And Vader did what he can, but really there was nothing you could do with Bradshaw, because Bradshaw at this time was sort of still green, and he wasn't the Bradshaw that we're used to seeing now. Then you had the Al Snow Scorpio against Too Much matchup. Really, that wasn't a good matchup, but it was interesting to see Scorpio do his moves, and I just felt that Scorpio was such an underrated wrestler, and he should have been used better than what he was used in his WWE tenure. But that's just me. But I believe Al Snow and Scorpio got the win against Too Much, and that sort of ended that feud, as that feud wasn't good to begin with. You also had Golga versus Mosh, which really wasn't a good matchup, awful matchup. And you had Owen Hart against Edge, which was another one of the best matches of the night on that pay-per-view, as it showed how underrated of a worker Owen Hart was, and that he should have been elevated up to main event status, because he could work any different type of style, and he basically carried Edge into that matchup, because around this time Edge was still green and he was starting to learn. He was in a learning process of learning all the moves in the WWE at the time, and Owen Hart was willing to work with him and show him how to work a match and how to sell and everything like that. And that's sort of what made that match pretty good. And Owen Hart ended up getting the win, and Owen Hart, I believe, at this time should have got pushed up bigger than what he got pushed around this time, because he was just stuck in the mid card, and I believe he was stuck in the mid card around his whole entire career. But it's a shame, as I felt Owen Hart is one of the most underrated wrestlers, way better than his brother, technical wise and speed wise, and he was very more entertaining than his brother. But that's just me. And then you also had DX against Southern Justice. The 3 members of DX, I believe, the 4 members, I believe, it was X-Pac, Triple H, and the New Age Outlaws against Southern Justice, ending that feud against Southern Justice. That was a one-sided feud to begin with also. And I guess, and DX showed why they were DX, and they just dominated Southern Justice. And then you went to the main event, which pissed a lot of people off, as it was supposed to be a triple threat matchup, but it ended up being Undertaker and Kane. It ended up being a 2-on-1 matchup. The crowd was bored out of their mind, because really it was just, all this match was just Undertaker and Kane just beating the snot out of Stone Cold Steve Austin, not beating the hell out of each other. And then the end, they had that screw job with, I believe, both of them choke slamming Steve Austin or whatever and pinning him. And then you had Vince McMahon taking the belt and running off with it, saying that the belt's his. And I believe this was a Smoking Skull belt, and that would play a big factor into the next pay-per-view or the next couple months, as Stone Cold was doing everything he can to get his Smoking Skull belt back. But still, this main event was terrible. WWE could have did a lot better than what they did at this main event, because this main event was not good at all. And you can tell by the crowd reaction and throwing stuff in the ring that the crowd was pretty pissed off. But overall, this was an okay pay-per-view. Like I said, it's really the whole reason this pay-per-view is forgotten is mainly because people just didn't care for this pay-per-view, and then the main event pissed a lot of people off, and there wasn't really a note of this pay-per-view that just made you want to remember this pay-per-view. But still, this pay-per-view should be remembered for The Rock, the match that turned The Rock into a star, well, a bigger star, and cemented The Rock into the biggest face in the WWE around that time, before they turned him into the heel. And then, of course, Owen Hart showing why he's underrated. And then, of course, the last pay-per-view appearance of Vader, and then, of course, the DX Southern Justice and the Val Venis and the Goldust feud that ended. But overall, okay pay-per-view, and that's pretty much it.